If you're wondering why I'm making those weird sounds, that is something called overtone singing. Now, I have been asked a lot over the years about this topic, and privately I've discussed with people because I find it to be one of the biggest keys to my vocal success that I've had over my career. And I've given a few interviews about it, just a little bit, but I wanted to go in depth a little bit more about why I think it's a very important thing for opera singers and basically anyone to learn how to master your instrument and to understand what's going on behind all of the sounds that you're making when you sing. Now, overtones in general happen in nature, and we hear them all of the time. Like if you have wind chimes, or if there's a tunnel or a big cylindrical thing, a tube outside, and you'll hear this weird series of sounds that go ooh, and you don't know where that melody is coming from. It's because in nature, this sound happens when properly produced air and supported air comes through a cylindrical type sound. And that's exactly what happens in our throat as well, and in our nasal cavity in our mouth. So there's many different ways of producing overtones, and there's a couple of ways that you can do it where it's a bit detrimental to your voice, like some of the overtones done in Tuvian throat singing and especially certain folk singing. There's all different kinds of and categories of throat singing that produce overtones. But what I'm specifically talking about is overtone singing in properly produced singing, whether it be choral music or folk music or rock or any of these things that use the full chord system that we have in place and that's properly supported. So to give you an example of some of the ways that like throat singers do it, it's a very different and harsh way of bringing the chords together and forcing them down, and to basically make these guttural sounds, and then overtones will be produced above. So to give you an idea of that would be like, and that's not very good for the chords. But you can produce certain overtones like this, but the ones that I'm after and the ones that I think are very beneficial to operatic singing and good singing in general are the ones that are like this. Now, to give you a little backstory of why I found this whole world of overtones, I first heard the word when I was young. My parents had talked about overtones because both my parents were choral directors, and it's all about proper sound and expression. But there were certain things that would happen sometimes when choruses get together, and you'd hear these otherworldly sounds that are coming out from somewhere, and you're not sure where they are, but they would talk about overtones. But not many people really can explain what's going on in a rudimentary level and when you're starting out. So the first time that I heard it in depth of what overtones actually were was there's this choir called the World Youth Choir, and I had to audition by tape. That gives you an idea of how old I am, to get into the choir. And I was in Slovenia, which was a country I didn't even know existed before I went there. So that was interesting. And we did this piece with the conductor that was from a Swedish composer, and it was all about overtone sounds. It was called Mwaum. The song was called Mwaum, and it was to produce all of these overtones, and sopranos, mezzos, tenors, baritones, basses. All of us had to produce a series of sounds with our mouth and different breathing patterns to produce all of these interesting sounds. And the conductor and all of the people in the Nordic area had been inundated with this since they started, because it's very much a part of the Nordic choral tradition is to focus on these overtone series. And most of our music in in the Christian church and the Gregorian music, and how Western music kind of developed, was on the series of these overtones. And I don't have enough time to go into in depth about that. But to get back to the overtone of why it's beneficial, is when you're singing properly and you have proper support of your instrument, overtones will be produced naturally. And depending on how you choose to sing and what your understanding of technique is, there's a very efficient and beautiful way of singing that will produce these overtones more and more and more. And an interesting thing is that when there was a big study done with thousands of people that were asked, what is your favorite tenor? And so it was a scientific study that was done, and they used all of the famous examples like Caruso and Domingo and Carreras and Pavarotti and Gigli, Di Stefano, all of these famous older singers, and they put them through and analyzed all of these singers' voices, and out of the entire survey, there was one that stood out above everyone as the most pleasing, the most beautiful sound. Beauty was what they were after. They said, what is the tenor that you want to hear more than anybody else? And the one who was the biggest success was Björling. And the people who put this together kind of had a hunch that overtones was the reason why his voice was so beautiful, and why so many people loved to hear his voice. And it was right, because they put it through a spectrogram and started to analyze it and realized that he had more overtones at all times singing than any other tenor. And this is what people find pleasing, but there's an extra added advantage of what overtones do for your tone, because they can help carry your sound and amplify your sound, because it means, one, that you're singing at your maximum efficiency, but two, anytime that you have an instrument that is at maximum efficiency, it's going to be much more expanded. The sound's going to reach people. And I always try to think about how to affect the audience, how to give them the experience that they want to. And it's not just about the performer themselves, but when you have overtones, you feel so good when you're singing, and then the audience feels so good, and the whole room can come together in such an amazing way. But the other way is about 11, 12 years ago, I started searching through YouTube, and I found this amazing video that still a lot of people have yet to discover, but he's one of the great overtone masters. His name is Christian Bollmann, and he's German, but in this clip, which I'll link within this video, he's in a cave, and it's really mysterious, and it's amazing, because caves and big open spaces are great ways to explore, like any stairwells or a basement that has this kind of cavernous sound, or caves. That's the incredible thing. You can do overtones for seconds at a time when you're there. But he's in this cave, and he's making these sounds that I had never heard anyone make at all. And then he starts singing with himself, singing a duet. While he's singing one tone, he has another counter melody going up above him and sometimes below. And I was just blown away that one voice could do something like this, because I've been obsessed with sound since I was a child, and I wanted to be a cartoon voiceover specialist. And since I was a kid, I would always talk like this, or I talk like this, and try to change my voice and do weird things with it. And opera was just an extension of weird sounds to me, to be honest. When I started studying opera, I would just listen to people, and I would go, they're ha 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 ha, they're singing like this, I'll just go ha 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 ha, or ha 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 ha. They're making all these weird sounds. And so that's how it all kind of came together in my head. But overtones was the missing link for me to understand what was actually going on with my sound. And it's super interesting, because to give you a few examples, this is just a kind of shortened version of what he does, and he's a master in it, and we'll see if my voice is working, but I give you a little taste of what is possible with overtones. So if you go Now that last sound wasn't overtone. That was subtone. So it's a pretty interesting topic. There's lots more to talk about, but I just wanted to give you a little understanding of why it's so important, because it's such a finite way of singing, and the more that you understand your voice, and especially through overtones, the more you're going to be able to control it and do what you want to with it in opera, and that's what good singing is about. So